Well, Sandra, you have given me this ridiculous Christmas present. I just we'll get around to talking about the wine in just a second, but I just got to show you guys this. This is a nutcracker winemaker, complete with grapes and barrel and everything. Just the treasure one so rarely encounters, and I just had to show it off. And thank you for your sense of the absurd. And we'll just let him watch the doings here. This is one of the crazier experiments I've ever done, and I wonder if I've ever really explained to you what cross-flow filtration is.
I don't believe so.
No, I should have gotten around to that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, how can I explain it? I'd say in general that winemaking in the beginning, you know, like after you've crushed the grapes and all of that, you're trying to do sort of a selective extraction of some sort. So basically there are good things and bad things in grapes, and you want to get the good things out and not the bad things. Mm-hmm. But what do you mean by bad things? So it's kind of often a question of style. So like for example,
acidity or like different levels.
Well, we're talking about texture, you know, like how do you feel about tannin, for example? And it's kind of personal preference, you know, like there's those salsas that you get in the jar and they're real smooth, and then you got like salsa cruda, you know, it's just fresh chopped up stuff, you know, or with pate, you have the real fine ones, and then you have the kind of coarse country pates. They're more like a kind of a fancy meatloaf, and I actually like those better. I like the texture, you know, the mousses just seem kind of mushy to me, but so it's some of it's personal preference, and I think the mistake, I don't know if it's a mistake, but it's certainly a direction that we were all taught in school, is to treat wines in such a way that they're that you don't get the bad stuff. You know, my early white wines were like that. And I remember Zelma Long, who was a famous winemaker, and I have wonderful respect for her, but she showed me in 1980 an experiment she had done where she was using, she did this experiment where she measured the total phenolics, so that's like the amount of tannin that comes out into a Sauvignon Blanc with skin contact, depending on the temperature. And the hotter the temperature was, the more stuff she got. And so in the beginning, that's how I made my Sauvignon Blancs, I invented this idea of night harvesting to pick them really cold. And the pectins were acting, they were gelled, you know, and so they were sort of acting, they would give you the aromatics, but not the big, aggressive, harsh tannins. And so my idea was that I could make wines that weren't sweet, but they didn't hurt people. You know, I think most people, they'll drink sweet wine because it covers up the harshness and the bitterness of the tannin and all that. And then there's people like me that kind of got to the point where I don't want to see the sugar. I want to see the fruit and something soft. So the idea was that you could make something that's sort of universally good for everybody. And I think if you talk to people that are kind of new to the game of alcoholic beverages, the thing they'll say is, well, you tell me, like if I give you a whiskey or something like that, if you were like 19 years old or something and you really liked it, what would you say?
If I really liked it?
What would be the thing you were looking for?
A smoothness?
That's it, yeah. I knew you, that's right. And that's what they say, they just want it not to hurt them. They're not interested in profundity or flavor or transformation. They just want it not to taste too bad, right? So they go, ooh, that's really smooth, yeah. So the approach to smoothness, and that definitely is a problem in Pinot Noir. The approach of most of my colleagues to getting smoothness is to treat Pinot Noir very gently. Not press it too hard, and don't pump it, don't filter it. Just the idea is it's a very fragile wine, and you just have to treat it with kid gloves. So this wine is exactly the opposite of that, because I think that Pinot Noir is stingy, and it won't give up its flavor and its depth and its profundity unless you kind of coax it pretty hard. So I came up with this idea, and this was back in the days around Sideways, that crazy movie.
Yeah.
You know, when everybody wanted Pinot Noir, and they didn't care, you know, what it tasted like. They just, you know, it was cool and hip, and that's what they were doing. So, and so it was really hard to get Pinot Noir, and the prices were crazy. So, but we knew about crossflow technology from the reverse osmosis work that we've done. Now, ROs are really, really tight filters. You can filter salt out of water with an RO, so they're like 10,000 times tighter than a sterile filter. But there's this thing in the middle called ultrafiltration, which was kind of what Zelma was doing with those pectins, was kind of ultrafiltering out the long chain polymers, which is where the harshness comes from. Those harsh, bitter tannins are reacting with your salivary protein, and they're giving you, it's like sandpaper in your mouth. So anyway, what we decided to do, we went out and we contracted with all the top sparkling wine producers in Napa and Sonoma and Mendocino, a little bit of juice from Marin. We got all this stuff in, and that's the hard press. The champagne makers don't know what to do with it. They just wanted us to haul it away. They thought of it as garbage. It's called taille. It's like the tails of the press. So we took that stuff, and it was loaded with richness and flavor, and also some elements that helped us extract the flavor from the skins. So we got all of these regional flavors all blended together, and then but it was very harsh. So we ultrafiltered it to take out the tannin and still get the silky, rich density. And it's a mixture of all of these different areas. And the only problem was that it didn't have any color to speak of, because those polymeric pigments got filtered out along with the tannin. So it was kind of a rosé, but it smelled great. The other thing, since it was from champagne stock, you know, they picked that stuff at fairly low alcohol, and so we ended up with you know, about 12% alcohol in the wine, but it didn't have color. So we went out to Lodi, and we got what's called a Teinturier, a grape. You know, most grapes don't have any color inside, right? Like Cabernet, all the colors in the skins, but this ruby red stuff has just got color everywhere. It's like Norton, you know,
wow.
It's just loaded with color. It doesn't take very much to give it some color. But then the problem, like, it's kind of like the Faux Chablis, that it had so much density and energy and so much sort of complexity that it needed to get to know itself and kind of relax and kind of open up. And so we put it in 20-year-old barrels, and we just waited it out. I mean, honestly, it really wasn't all that good. When we put it in the barrels, we were just going, okay, this wine needs a lot of time. And we ended up aging it for 111 months. So let's show them the cork here. So it's a 2008, and we just bottled it. Yeah, just. Was it last year?
Yeah, it's like about 6 months ago.
Yeah, about 6 months ago. Right. Almost 10 years. And so if you look at that cork, there's like no color penetration. That's the proof that we just put this stuff in the bottle. So the other thing that happened, sort of like the 2007, is that when you leave wine in a neutral barrel for a long, long time, you get these very fruity characteristics of, you know, sometimes it's marzipan or toasted marshmallow or you know, those tawny port kinds of characters, also you get it sometimes, you get that really fruity medium roast coffee if it has a lot of protein in it, that same kind of thing, but it takes Takes maybe 10 years to get it in a wine. And so I'm pouring it in our friend Mike Falk uses these glasses for his Pinot Noir. If you ever get your hands on this shape, they're really wonderful for bringing the nose up to you. So you tell me what you've got here.
It's a lot of fruit.
Yeah, it's pretty fresh, isn't it? Lots of different kinds of berries.
Mm-hmm. It's not just like one distinct berry.
Right. And then you've got these. They're just very subtle nuances of these Maillard reaction products. A little bit of marzipan or toasted marshmallow or something like that. And then describe the texture in the mouth.
Not what you'd think by the nose.
Yeah.
It is a lot really smooth.
It's very silky. Yeah.
It's very, very silky.
Yeah, if you had seen what this was like before we ultrafiltered it.
It's definitely, now you can taste like some cherries.
Mm-hmm. And some brighter berries than that, sort of raspberry or blackberry or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some spice in the finish, and it's got good acidity.
Yeah.
Pretty minerally right in the back there, so very alive. But for all that, I think even though it has so many layers, I think it's a really feminine wine. What do you think we should do with this? This is not a steak wine.
What to pair it with?
I can't remember what I said on the back end. Oh, here we go.
Seafood?
Seafood. Yeah, well, I would do it with salmon, for sure. An oily fish or a paella, something like that. What I say here is graceful, ethereal wine, perfect for roast duck, quail, or an Eldu cheddar.